Screen. You can see my screen now. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we have found out the normals to the two surfaces at one point where they are basically intersecting. So finding out the angle between these two normals will also give us the angle between the two surfaces at the given point. So we know how to find the angle. We take the dot product of the two vectors grad phi 1 and grad phi 2. So basically mod grad phi 1 into mod grad phi 2 into cos theta. Grad phi 1 dot grad phi 2 is 4 4s are 16 plus 2 2s are 4 plus 4 into minus 1 minus 4. And on the right hand side you have for this root 36, for this root 21 into cos theta. Whoever has unmuted him or herself, please go on mute. Please go on mute. Okay. So from here we get theta is equal to cos inverse 16 by 6 root 21. Okay. So basically very easy problem, but just you need to know the method how to do it, and it also signifies the geometrical interpretation of the gradient of a function when the function represents a what you may call it, a surface. Okay. Now if you are getting to hear any background noise, please ignore it, because my house happens to be exactly beside a wedding banquet, and at this moment a wedding is going on over there, so please ignore the background noise. Okay. Okay, so now we will go on to, we have more or less discussed whatever there is to discuss in gradient, how to do a sum related to the gradient, how to, just a second, hello, I am taking a class right now, please call me later, I am taking a class right now. Okay. So now we will discuss the divergence. We have more or less covered whatever there is to discuss in gradient, hopefully. And next we will move on to the divergence. We already saw what the divergence formula was. We know that divergence happens to be the action of the grad operator on a vector, and the result is a scalar. So we will discuss why, first of all, what is the mathematics, how to find the divergence of a given function, and then we'll move on to the physical significance of divergence to understand why the operator here is converting basically a vector into a scalar. Okay, so suppose we have a function, vector function v, which is a field because it is dependent on the space coordinates x, y and z, and it is given by v1 I cap plus v2 j cap plus v3 k cap, where we have to remember that since it is a field, therefore v1, v2 and v3 are not constant coefficients, they are also functions of x, y and z. Okay, so it is a vector field. It is defined and differentiable at each point x, y, z in a certain region of space. That is how we define a field. So the divergence of this vector field is defined in this manner. Divergence v is equal to, you put the expression of the grad operator del del x I cap plus del del y j cap plus del del z k cap operating on the vector v1 I cap plus v2 j cap plus v3 k cap, and we have now in this case we are taking the dot product of the operator with the vector. So evidently the result is like this. Divergence of the vector v is given by del v1 del x plus del v2 del y plus del v3 del z. Okay, so we had started with a vector field, we operated the grad operator on it, and the result that we obtained is a scalar. There is no unit vector in the right hand side, as you can see. It is a, once you take the partial derivatives of the components v1, v2 and v3, which are functions of x, y and z, you will get a scalar function in the right hand side. And if you are given any particular position at which you have to find it, then you will simply get a number for this expression on the right hand side. So clearly we are getting a scalar. Excuse me. So we will take a quick example. Suppose Vx equal to 2x square y I cap minus xy cube j cap, xy cube z j cap plus z to the power 4 k cap. Then what will be the divergence? Can you quickly calculate and tell me what will be the divergence of V?
ম্যাডাম বলবো
বলো বলো
4x I cap 4x plus 3y square plus 4z cube
4x y হবে
y minus of হচ্ছে 3y square xz plus 4z square
একদম z কিউব ঠিক কোনো এখানে কিন্তু ভীষণ সবাই ভুল করে ইউ মানে হ্যাঁ this is a very common mistake when you start off with this kind of problem, this kind of sums, because this is new to you, that you generally students, over my years of experience I have seen that generally students forget to give the unit vectors in case of gradient and give the unit vectors in case of divergence. Okay, so just get it bored into your head that the gradient is a vector, so you have to put the unit vectors, and the divergence is a scalar, so you don't need to put the unit vectors. Okay, even if you get confused about the partial derivative and everything, please just suppose you have put the unit vectors, just quickly remember, oh no, divergence is a scalar, there cannot be any unit vectors, so rub them off. Okay, this is a very common mistake when you in the beginning when you do these sums. Of course later on it becomes a habit when you practice enough, but in the beginning this is a common mistake. So in order to get rid of that mistake, just keep in mind that the gradient is a vector, so there will be the unit vectors, and the divergence is a scalar, so there will not be any unit vectors. Otherwise it is very easy, just simple partial differentiation. Okay, and in case of divergence it is easier because for each term you need to, my goodness, what noise, because for each term you have to take the partial derivative of the, I mean for x you have to differentiate only the first component, only the x component. For y you have to differentiate only the y component, and for z you have to differentiate only the z component. So it's very easy. Okay, now yes, that's what I was telling you, that just remember that it is a scalar. Okay, now we'll do some mathematics. The first problem is extremely simple. Find the divergence of the position vector r. Can you tell me the answer? এক্ষুনি মুখোমুখি হয়ে যাবে. Divergence of the position vector r. 3, yes. Del x plus del y plus del z 1 plus 1 plus 1 equal to 3. Why we are getting 3 will be clear to you when we discuss the physical significance of divergence. Okay, for the time being you can do the mathematics and see that the answer is simply 3. So in this manner, whatever function is given, you can find out the divergence. And what I'll do is I'll in case of gradient, what we had done is initially we had used this formula to find out the gradient of a function of r, and then we had derived the general formula. Here we won't spend time, as I told you I am a little short of time today. We will directly derive the formula for the divergence of any function of r with the position vector r. Okay, so I mean since divergence is of a vector, so it doesn't make sense to take the divergence of fr, which is a scalar. You can take the gradient of fr, but fr r vector, for such a function, what will be the divergence, that we will find out, where of course r is our magnitude of the position vector root over x square plus y square plus z square. Okay. So divergence of fr r vector according to the definition will be given by del del x of fr x plus del del y of fr y plus del del z of fr z. Okay. So if you do by-part differentiation, by-part partial differentiation of each such term, then what you get is this. Okay. For the first term, for example, you get first x del del x of fr and then fr del x which is 1. So from the first term you get fr plus x del del x of fr. Similarly, from the second term you get fr plus y del del y of fr. And from the third term you get fr plus z del del z of fr. Is this step clear to everybody? একবার নিজেরা চোখ বুলিয়ে নাও, then it will be is it clear to everybody, this first step?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just by part differentiation of each of the 3 terms so that we get 6 terms. So we collect the FRs and we have 3 FR, and then see this term is x del del x of fr. Okay, so we keep x, and this del f del x we write as df dr into del r del x. Now why df dr? Because f is a function of r only, so we don't need to write del. We can write d, because there is no question of partial derivative when we are writing df dr, because f is a function of r only. Okay, so we split this expression del f del x as del f del r into del r del x. Similarly, from the second term we get y df dr into del r del y, and from the third term we get z df dr into del r del z. Okay, if at any point you find any difficulty in understanding a step, please unmute and tell me, otherwise I'll just carry on. Okay, so after this we have the 3 fr outside. What we do is we take df dr common, and inside the bracket we are left with x del r del x plus y del r del y plus z del r del z. Okay, so now we have 3 fr and df dr. Inside we therefore have x multiplied by del del x of root over x square plus y square plus z square plus y multiplied with del del y of z, this, and z multiplied by del del z of this. Okay, now this thing you have already done while doing the gradient portion. So we have 3 fr plus df dr into x is there, then for this derivative we have half into 2x into 1 by root over this. Similarly for this term, and similarly for the third term. So now from here 2 and 2 goes, we have x square by root over x square plus y square plus z square plus y square by root over x square plus y square plus z square plus z square by root over x square plus y square plus z square. Okay, so in the numerator we have x square plus y square plus z square, which is basically r square, and in the denominator we have r. So we can write this in this manner: 3 fr df dr into x square plus y square plus z square divided by root over x square plus y square plus z square. Okay. So basically this thing is nothing but r square by r, which is r. So the formula that we get is grad of fr r vector is equal to 3 fr plus f primed r into r. It's a scalar, you can see, and any form of fr that is given, you can simply use this formula and find the answer. F primed r, of course, is df dr. Okay, so once again the same advice goes that you have to check the marks given and then take action. If you are asked to find the divergence of a particular function and marks given is say 2, then you directly use the formula and get the answer. If the marks given is 3 or rather 4 or 5, then you derive the formula and then use it to get the answer. So I'll quickly I've not made a slide, but I'll just give you a function and you can quickly write down the answer and tell me. So find out the divergence of log r vector. Divergence of log r vector. Can you quickly do it and tell me?
Divergence of f of r vector r equals to 3 of log r plus df dr dr হবে না তো এখানে মানে 1 আর এইটাই
second termটা second
term হচ্ছে df by dr into
df dr টা কত?
df dr টা হচ্ছে 1 by r।
হ্যাঁ, তাহলে 1 by r into r কত হলো?
r into r equals to unit vector হচ্ছে।
আবার ভেক্টর কোথায়? Divergence, no vector. See, I told you this is a very common mistake. No vector. So answer will be 3 log r plus 1.
ও 1 মানে r আর উপরে r, হ্যাঁ 1।
3 log r plus 1. Okay, another one. R cube r vector. Find the divergence of r cube r vector. Now I want someone else to answer. R cube r vector.
R cube.
Yes. And the first term 3fr. You forgotten 3fr. Anyone else? Is someone answering? Divergence of r cube r vector. Can you hear me? Are you in the call? bolo.
Divergence of r cube plus 9r cube plus 3r cube।
9 আবার কোথা থেকে আসছে?
মানে 3r cube plus 3r cube।
Yes. So 6r cube. Oh, the first person told 6r cube. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Yes. তুমি তো একবার unmute করে বলবে, ma'am, I had given the final answer. Yes. The answer is 6r cube. Sorry about that. Whoever it was, I still don't know your names. Okay. So in this manner, whatever function of fr r vector is given, you can simply use the formula and find out the divergence. All right. আমি যখন বললাম যে you are forgetting the first term, তুমি তো আনমিউট করে বলবে, ম্যাম, আমি তো একদম যোগ করে ফাইনাল আনসারটা বলেছি। Okay, so in this manner you can find out the divergence whether it is vector field given in terms of xyz, or whether it is a function given in terms of r. All right, so now we will move on to the physical interpretation of the divergence, and the physical interpretation of divergence is the flux. Okay, if I don't know if you have come across this term, the flux, when you talk about magnetic lines of force or electric lines of force, or when there is a flow of any kind of fluid through a certain region, then we use this term flux a lot. Okay, so we will see that basically divergence of a vector is related to its flux in a given region. Okay, so for this interpretation, as I told you, we consider a region with a moving fluid. It can be water or gas particles, or simple some other particles, dust particles, even people moving in through a certain say a door or a hallway. Okay, say you can consider people moving into a movie hall, or people coming out from the theater, uh, basically a crowd. Okay, or even you can consider electric lines of force or magnetic lines of force. Okay, you just imagine a region where there is a flow of some kind. Okay, and if we, for the time being, if we just consider fluid, the flow of a particular fluid, let us consider that the vector v is the velocity of a fluid particle at a given point. So a mass of fluid is moving, and within that, at any given point, capital V gives us the velocity of a particle. And we write capital V equal to small v into rho, where rho is the density of the fluid. Okay, please listen to this very carefully. I'll be telling you this slowly. This is an interpretation. This interpretation, in the beginning, I'm telling you, it will not come in the exam. No one will ask you write the physical interpretation of divergence or prove the physical interpretation of a divergence. It will not come in the exam. But I personally feel that in order to understand an operation, it is very, very important to visualize the operation and to uh, have a clear understanding of what is happening, because this is physics we are studying. It's a natural science. So mathematics is of course there. It's a part of physics. It's a tool that we use, but we also need to understand what is happening actually. Okay, so which is why I use this detailed derivation in the slides. When you are studying for the exam, you can skip this, but in order to understand the physical interpretation, you need to know this. So suppose within this mass of fluid that is moving, in time t, you imagine a unit area A prime, which is perpendicular to the direction of flow. Then that amount of fluid is basically the fluid contained in a cylinder of cross-sectional area A prime and length Vt. Right? This is what I am talking about. We have considered a mass of some fluids or particles moving in a certain direction, and within that we consider a cylinder like this, okay, of cross-sectional area A prime, which is normal to the direction of flow. So this arrow gives us the direction of flow, and we have considered a cross-sectional area which is normal to the direction of flow. Then the fluid passing through this area A prime, perpendicular to the direction of flow, area is perpendicular to the direction of flow. So the fluid passing in time t through this area is given by the fluid contained in this cylinder of length Vt. Is this clear to everybody?
ম্যাম আরেকবার রিপিট করবেন?
Okay, we are considering a mass of fluid particles moving in a certain direction. Okay, this is the direction of flow. So if you consider an area A prime which is perpendicular to the direction of flow, then what is the amount of fluid that crosses this area in time t? What amount of kotota fluid বা how many fluid particles are passing this particular area in a time t? It will be given by the amount of fluid that is contained in a cylinder which has this as its base area and its length given by Vt, because V is the velocity. Okay, we are considering the amount of fluid passing in time t. So if Vt be the length, so V is basically length per unit time, distance by time, V is the velocity. So V into t, okay, will give you distance by time into time. So this is the length. Have you understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so length Vt and area A prime. So that amount of fluid will pass through this area in time t. So what is the numerical value of this amount? Length, see where my, just keep an eye on where my arrow is. Length Vt into area A prime, that is the volume, into density. So that is the mass. Volume into density, Vta prime is the volume of this cylinder and rho is the mass. Rho is the density of the fluid. So volume into density gives you the mass of the fluid that passes this area A prime, which is perpendicular to the direction of flow in time t. Okay. Now this same amount of fluid would pass through another area A which is inclined at an angle theta to the normal to the area A prime. This is what I am saying. Consider another area A which is inclined at an angle theta to this direction of flow, that is to the normal to A prime. This is the normal to A. So the angle between them is theta. So the amount of fluid that is coming out of this cross-sectional area will also move out through this cross-sectional area A prime. So we need not think about an area which is only normal to the direction of flow, but for any general area having any orientation within this mass of fluid will also be the same, given by Vta prime rho, which I replace, where I replace A prime by A cos theta, because A prime is equal to A cos theta. And so this mass is basically given by Vta rho cos theta. Okay. So তার মানে এই A prime এরিয়াটা দিয়ে যে অ্যামাউন্ট অফ ফ্লুইডটা বেরোচ্ছে, সেম অ্যামাউন্ট অফ ফ্লুইড এই A এরিয়াটা দিয়েও বেরোচ্ছে। ওকে, these two are same. I've only replaced A prime by A cos theta. So per unit area per unit time, we have to divide this amount by T into A. So we are left with V rho cos theta. Okay. Amount of fluid crossing unit area in unit time. To get that, we have to divide this amount by time and area, and we are left with V rho cos theta, which we can write as V dot n cap, because remember V rho we had taken as V vector and V rho into cos theta. So n cap is basically this unit vector, the normal to the area A. Okay. So from this discussion, we will keep in mind this expression, that the amount of fluid crossing any area of any inclination to the direction of flow per unit area per unit time is given by V dot n cap, where V is the velocity of the fluid particles and n cap is the normal to the area. Clear? Okay. Can I move to the next slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now in this same fluid which we have considered, we consider a rectangular parallelepiped. In that fluid now we set up the coordinate axis, okay, where the directions are like this, x, y and z direction, and we consider a rectangular parallelepiped whose sides are given by dx, dy and dz. Okay, so infinitesimally small rectangular parallelepiped. So you can understand that I have magnified what I am saying. The volume that I am considering is infinitesimally small, but I have magnified it several times, and this is the figure that I am getting. Okay, so we consider an element of volume dx, dy, dz in the region where the fluid is moving, and this fluid is either moving in or out of the volume dx, dy, dz through each of the 6 surfaces. This parallelepiped has 6 surfaces: left side, right side, front, back, top, bottom. And this fluid that we have, mass of fluid, একটা mass of fluid আছে, তার মধ্যে আমরা এই parallelepipedটা consider করেছি. So this fluid is either moving into this volume or it is moving out of this volume through the 6 surfaces. Clear? Can you imagine the picture? I hope you can imagine the picture. Now, the rate at which the fluid moves into the volume through the surface 1. Consider this surface only. Okay. So we just saw that the amount of fluid crossing a surface per unit area, per unit time is given by V dot n cap. Now what is the normal to this surface here? So this is what I am saying. The fluid coming in through here. Now what is the normal to this surface? Can someone tell me what is the normal to this surface? এই সারফেসটার নরমাল কি?
I cap.
I cap. So V dot n cap we can write as V dot I cap. Okay, per unit time, per unit area. So that is the amount of fluid entering this element through the surface at x equal to 0. Okay, now the total fluid is therefore V dot I cap multiplied by the area. V dot I cap is per unit area. So total will be given by V dot I cap multiplied by the area. Area is given by dy dz. Area of this surface is given by dy dz. So it is V dot I cap dy dz. But V dot I cap is equal to Vx. We all know V dot I cap is equal to Vx. So this comes out to be Vx dy dz. All right. Now, when the fluid reaches the second surface, this surface, okay, it has been joined by fluid coming in from the other surfaces, top, bottom, front, back. So either some fluid has left through the other surfaces or some fluid has been added. So the fluid that comes out from this second surface will be Vx plus delta Vx. This delta Vx may be negative or positive. That is, some amount may have rejoined or rather joined Vx or some have left Vx. But the amount that leaves this volume through the second surface is infinitesimally different from what has entered through the first surface. Okay. Now delta Vx I write as dVx, since we have said that these amounts are infinitesimally small, so that since Vx is a function of x, we can write dvx as equal to del Vx del x dx. Okay. Hence, the net outflow, some fluid enters through the first surface, some fluid leaves through the second surface. So the net fluid, that is the result of fluid coming in through here and leaving through here, that is the net outflow through these two surfaces, is Vx at 2 minus Vx at 1, where this is 2 and this is 1, multiplied by the area dy dz. But this we saw, basically it will be Vx plus delta Vx minus Vx. So we are left with delta Vx. But delta Vx is dVx and dVx is del Vx del x dx. So we have del Vx del x ds multiplied by dy dz. So the result of the left and right surfaces is del Vx del x dx into dy dz. If you carry out the same exercise for the top and bottom surface, then the net amount will be del Vy del y dy into dx dz. And for the front and back surface, it will be del Vz del z dz into dx dy. So, the net amount, that is the result of fluid in and fluid out through all the 6 surfaces, is a sum of these 3 terms. Okay, that is del Vx del x plus del Vy del y plus del Vz del z into dx dy dz. But this term within the bracket is nothing but the divergence. So this is given by divergence of V dx dy dz. Now what is dx dy dz? Dx dy dz is the volume of this rectangular parallelepiped. So if you are asked to find the net flow through unit volume, you have to divide by the volume and you are left with divergence of V. This term, the rate at which fluid moves into a volume and leaves the volume. So the net amount of fluid that comes out through a volume per unit time, per unit volume, is called the flux. So basically, the divergence of a vector that is associated with the flow of particles or lines of force gives you the flux at that given point. Okay? So you really don't have to learn this derivation, but it will be good for you if you understand it, because then you will clearly know why divergence is basically the flux. Okay? So suppose you are just as I told you, suppose you are at the gate of a cinema hall and you see that someone tells you that I'll go there after some time because right now the flux of people is very high as the show just ended. Are you getting me? Suppose you ask your friend to meet you at the gate of some cinema hall and he tells you that I will meet you sometime later because right now the flux of people through that gate is very high because the show just ended. You will understand what he said, right? Because he means is that since the show just ended, all the people are trying to come out of the movie hall at that point of time. So the number of persons coming out per unit volume of the space is very large. So it is better to avoid the crowd right now. So have I been able to give you an idea of what divergence and flux are? If not, then I will repeat myself. But have you got any idea about what I have been trying to say?
Yes, ma'am.
More or less. Okay.
Yes,
So what
ma'am.
you, yes. So what you do is you go through. I will send you this PPT, of course, and you go through these two slides. Of course, you'll do the sums of from Spigel, but you go through these two slides. I have more or less written down all the points that I have said, and the recording will be there also. So go through the slides and please try to understand what flux is and why it is related to the divergence of a vector. Okay. And just remember, I have not written this down, but you can get this in any book, that the flux or the divergence can be positive or negative or zero. If the flux is positive, it means that the amount of fluid that is coming out of this region is more than that had entered, right? And that would mean, that would indicate that there is some source over here. Okay, you know, because suppose there are two doors to a room, so the number of people entering the room through a door should ideally be equal to the number of people leaving through the other door. But if the number of people leaving is more than the number of people entering, then it must be that there is some third door through which some more people entered that room and have joined the people that are coming out. You understood? In that case, we say there is a source. Okay. If the divergence is positive, it indicates the presence of a source. On the other hand, if the divergence is negative, it means that the number of people who are coming out is less than the number of people who entered. So again, if there are two doors, then ideally it should be equal. But if it is lesser than the number of people who entered, then there must be some other door through which, a third door through which some people have left the room. Okay, and only the remaining people are coming out. In that case, we say that there is a sink. Okay, and if the divergence is zero, it means that the number of people coming in is equal to the number of people coming out. In that case, the vector is called solenoidal. What I'll do is, I'll just write this down so that you understand. Can you see my screen, everybody? All of you can see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So I'll quickly write down what I am trying to say so that I don't forget to add this slide. Okay, divergence of the vector V just have some patience, can be greater than 0, since I have not added this in my slide. I'll quickly, can be less than 0 and can be equal to 0. Okay, so divergence of the vector can be greater than 0, can be less than 0, can be equal to 0. All right, so if it is greater than 0, then it is called, it indicates the presence of a source. Okay, if it is less than 0, it indicates presence of a sink. And if it is equal to 0, then there is a special name to this vector. It is called a solenoidal. Okay. So now, have you heard this word solenoidal before? Has anyone heard this word solenoidal?
It usually indicates the shape of a coil. So does it have any relation to that?
Actually, yes, a coil is often called a solenoid. In this case, okay, since you brought up the shape of a coil is related to if a current flows through a coil like that, we know that there is a magnetic field, right? So basically, a solenoidal vector, the best example of a solenoidal vector is a magnetic field. Okay. Now all of you know that a magnetic field is always dipolar, right? A magnetic field is always has two poles, right? Can you get a magnetic monopole? Can magnetic monopoles exist?
No, ma'am.
No.
No. So this is exactly why magnetic monopoles do not exist, because the magnetic field is always solenoidal, which means that if a line of force comes out, it has to also end. So line of force coming out from the North Pole will go and end in the South Pole. Therefore, you can never have magnetic monopoles. Okay? There cannot be a source or a sink in a magnetic field. Magnetic field is always solenoidal, which is why a magnetic monopole does not exist. And this also gives you a very typical problem that is often given in your exam. Suppose you are given a vector and you are asked, can this particular vector represent a magnetic field? It comes in case, suppose you are writing a paper on vector analysis and you get a question like this. A vector is given and a question is given, can this vector represent a magnetic field? And you might think, why is a question on magnetic field coming in vector? Because you have to know, you must be knowing that a magnetic field is solenoidal. So what will you do? You quickly find the divergence of the given vector. If the divergence comes out to be 0, you write down, since the divergence is 0, so yes, it can represent a magnetic field because magnetic field is always solenoidal. If the divergence comes out to be non-zero, then you can easily write, no, it cannot represent a magnetic field because a magnetic field cannot have a non-zero divergence as it is a solenoidal field. Am I clear? Have you understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So with that, I'll end today's class. Please go through the final 3 or 4, 3 slides basically. This, and of course here I just made in front of you. Please go through these slides, read whatever I have said, and also listen if possible to whatever I have said to understand the physical significance of divergence. Okay. And then in your life you will never forget why a magnetic field is solenoidal, why magnetic monopoles do not exist, what is a sink, what is a source, and what is flux. Okay.